Title: They Only Saw the Eyes. Deep inside Mammoth Cave. What if the only thing you could see in total darkness was something already watching you? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive into true horror, real locations, and the kind of stories that feel just a little too possible to ignore. Tonight, we're heading underground, far below Kentucky, into Mammoth Cave, the largest cave system in the world. A place so massive, so complex, that even in recent years, new passages are still being discovered. But this story isn't about what explorers found. It's about what found them first. This happened in early November, 2021. The air outside Mammoth Cave National Park had already turned cold, the kind of quiet seasonal shift that made the forest feel still and distant. Inside the cave, that silence was even heavier. Sound didn't just echo there, it lingered. The team consisted of 4 people. Rowan Keats, a geologist who had spent years studying subterranean formations. Beckett Vance, a navigation specialist familiar with cave mapping systems. Orson Hale, a documentary videographer. And Lyndon Shaw, an audio technician known for capturing deep environment acoustics. They entered just after 8 in the morning, guided through a restricted access point that had been closed off for several years. Officially, it was due to unstable passage mapping. Unofficially, there had been reports of unusual visual phenomena. Nothing confirmed, nothing documented clearly, just enough to make the area stay sealed. At first, the descent felt routine. Their headlamps carved narrow tunnels of light through the darkness, revealing damp stone walls and mineral streaks that reflected faint glimmers. Every step echoed in a predictable rhythm. Lyndon recorded quietly, monitoring how sound behaved in the tight passages. It was consistent, stable, exactly what he expected. That changed about 40 minutes in. Lyndon slowed slightly, then stopped altogether. He raised a hand, signaling the others without speaking. Rowan noticed first and turned back. "What is it?" Lyndon didn't answer immediately. He tilted his head, listening carefully, as if trying to isolate something in the silence. "The echo is off," he said finally. Beckett frowned. "Off how?" "It's not returning clean. It's like something is interrupting it." Rowan stepped forward, scanning the tunnel ahead. "That doesn't make sense. There's nothing there." Orson adjusted his camera, pointing it down the passage. "You want me to check?" Rowan hesitated for a second, then said something that made everyone pause. "Turn off the lights." There was a brief silence, then one by one, their headlamps clicked off. Darkness swallowed everything instantly. Not dim light. Not shadow. Nothing. For a moment, there was only breathing. Then Lyndon spoke again, quieter this time. "Do you hear that?" At first, it was nothing. Then slowly, something emerged. A faint movement. Not water. Not rock. Something softer. And then they saw it. 2 small points of light. Far ahead in the darkness. Then 4. Then more. Eyes. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just existed, suspended in the black, watching. Orson instinctively raised his camera, even though it couldn't capture anything without light. "Those aren't reflections," he whispered. Rowan felt his chest tighten slightly. "Turn the lights back on." The beams snapped back into existence. The tunnel was empty. Completely empty. No eyes. No shapes. Nothing. But the feeling didn't leave. They continued forward, slower now, more aware of every sound. The cave felt different, quieter than before, like something had settled into the space around them. Lyndon kept glancing at his recorder, noticing subtle distortions in the audio feed. After a few more minutes, Beckett stopped abruptly. "There's something on the ground." They gathered around, their lights focused downward. Long, thin drag marks stretched across the cave floor. They weren't footprints, and they didn't follow any natural pattern. The lines overlapped in places, deep enough to suggest weight, but too smooth to belong to anything with legs. Rowan crouched down, examining them closely. "These are fresh." Orson let out a quiet breath. "Fresh as in recent." Rowan nodded once. Before anyone could say anything else, a sound echoed from behind them. Soft. A slow scraping noise. They turned immediately, their lights sweeping the tunnel. Nothing. But when they looked forward again, the eyes were back. Closer this time. And they didn't disappear. They hovered just at the edge of the light, enough to be seen but never fully revealed. Beneath them, shapes began to form, low to the ground, thin and shifting, like something trying to hold a shape but failing. Beckett stepped back slightly. "We're not going further." No one argued. They turned and began moving back the way they came, their pace quickening without anyone saying it out loud. But after only a short distance, Beckett slowed again. "That's not right." Rowan moved up beside him. "What is it?" "The markers, they're gone." They all looked. The reflective tags they had placed along the tunnel had vanished. Completely. Lyndon slowly turned around. "They're not gone." The others followed his gaze. The markers were there again. Behind them. But they weren't leading out. They were leading deeper. A cold weight settled in the air, the temperature dropping just enough for their breath to become visible. Orson whispered, "That's not possible." Then the voice came. Faint at first. "Beckett." Beckett froze immediately. "That's not me." The voice came again, clearer this time, closer. "Beckett, over here." It was perfect. His tone. His pacing. Everything. Lyndon's grip tightened on his recorder. "It's copying us." Rowan shook his head slowly. "No, it's learning us." More voices followed. Each one matching someone in the group. Exact. Precise. Not echoes. Not distortions. Something deliberate. The eyes shifted again, slowly closing the distance. And for the first time, one of the shapes moved forward. Not dragging this time. Not crawling. It tried to stand. Unsteady at first. Then adjusting. Correcting. Watching them as it moved. Becoming more stable with each second. Beckett's voice dropped. "We need to move now." But the tunnel no longer felt like a way out. It felt like part of something else. Something that had been waiting long before they arrived. And somewhere deeper in Mammoth Cave. Beyond the reach of their lights. More eyes began to open. One by one. Patient. Silent. Learning every step they took. The air in the tunnel grew colder with every step they took, not gradually, but in sudden drops that made it feel like they were crossing invisible boundaries. Rowan could see it in their breath now, thin clouds drifting in front of their faces, dissolving into the darkness almost instantly. No one said it out loud, but they all felt the same thing. The cave was no longer just a place. It was reacting to them. Beckett moved faster, trying to regain control, trying to follow what he believed was the original route. His eyes kept searching the walls for anything familiar, any mark or formation he could recognize, but nothing matched his memory. The passage felt longer than it should have been, stretched in ways that made no sense. "This isn't right," he said under his breath. "We should have hit the junction by now." Lyndon glanced back over his shoulder, his voice tight. "Then where are we going?" No one answered. Behind them, the sound returned. Footsteps. Not scraping. Not dragging. Walking. Slow at first, then steady. Matching their pace. Orson turned his camera toward the darkness behind them, even though he knew it wouldn't capture anything useful. "Something's following us," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Rowan didn't look back. "Don't stop," he said. "Whatever it is, it wants us to react." But the footsteps didn't fade. They grew clearer. Closer. Until it sounded like someone was walking just a few steps behind them, close enough that they should have been able to see it in the edge of their light. Lyndon swallowed hard. "I can hear breathing." Beckett stopped. Not by choice. His body just locked. "Don't," Rowan said sharply, but it was too late. The moment Beckett stopped, the footsteps behind them stopped too. Silence dropped instantly. Heavy. Complete. No echo. No movement. Nothing. Slowly, Beckett turned his head. The others followed. At the far edge of their light, something stood there. Upright. Still. Watching. It didn't move. Didn't react. It simply existed, as if it had always been there. Orson's voice dropped to a whisper. "That's not one of the crawling ones." Rowan nodded slightly. "No, it's not." The shape took a step forward. The movement was smooth. Balanced. Controlled. Not like before. Not like the things that dragged themselves across the floor. This one walked. The light reached it just enough to reveal its outline. Human. Too human. Lyndon felt his chest tighten as he stared. It's learning faster now. The figure stopped again, as if responding to the attention, as if it understood it was being watched. Then it spoke. "Keep moving." Rowan's voice. Perfect. Every tone, every inflection exactly the same. Orson shook his head slowly. "That's not possible." But it was. Rowan didn't react outwardly, but his jaw tightened. "Don't listen to it," he said quietly. "That's not me." Beckett forced himself to move again, pushing forward, trying to ignore what was behind them. But the cave ahead didn't feel right either. The tunnel began to slope downward, more sharply than before, pulling them deeper whether they wanted it or not. The air grew heavier, almost difficult to breathe, as if the space itself was tightening. Then Lyndon noticed something that made his stomach drop. "There's sound ahead too," he said. "What kind of sound?" Orson asked. Lyndon hesitated. "Us." They slowed slightly, listening. At first, it was faint. Then clearer. Voices. Their voices. Coming from deeper in the cave. Repeating fragments of what they had said earlier. Same tone. Same timing. Like recordings being played back. Beckett shook his head. No, that's not possible." Rowan's voice dropped. It's not playback. Lyndon understood immediately. It's practice. That word hung in the air. Practice. The realization settled in slowly, but once it did, there was no ignoring it. Whatever lived in the cave wasn't just copying them anymore. It was improving. Ahead of them, the tunnel opened slightly into another chamber, smaller than the last but just as wrong. The walls were smoother here, almost polished in places, and the ground was covered in overlapping drag marks and something else. Footprints. Hundreds of them. Layered over each other. Some human. Some not. All leading in different directions. Except one. A single path of clean, perfect prints leading straight through the center. Beckett stopped again, his voice barely holding together. That's not ours. Rowan stepped forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the prints. No, he said. That's what it's trying to become. Behind them, the footsteps returned. Not just one set this time. Many. All steady. All controlled. All moving in rhythm. Orson didn't turn. They're not hiding anymore. Lyndon's breathing grew uneven. They don't need to. The voices from ahead grew clearer now, overlapping, repeating, adjusting. Refining. Rowan looked from the prints to the darkness beyond them, then back to the team. We don't split up, he said. No matter what you hear. Beckett nodded, but his focus had shifted. Because one of the voices ahead had just called his name again. Softer this time. More natural. More convincing. And this time. It didn't sound wrong. Beckett didn't respond right away. He stood there, staring into the darkness ahead as the voice called his name again, softer this time, almost reassuring. The others watched him closely, waiting for him to move, but something in the way he stood felt different. Too still. Too focused. Rowan stepped closer. Beckett, don't listen to it. For a moment, Beckett didn't react. Then slowly, he nodded, as if waking up from something he didn't realize had taken hold of him. Yeah. I hear you, he said quietly. But his voice sounded slightly off. Subtle. Almost impossible to notice. They moved again, staying close, ignoring the voices as best as they could. The footsteps behind them didn't rush anymore. They followed at a distance, controlled and patient, like whatever was back there no longer needed to chase. The tunnel ahead finally began to rise. Slightly at first, then more noticeably. The air shifted, just enough for Rowan to feel it. Fresh air. Or something close to it. We're getting close, he said, his voice low but certain. No one questioned it. They kept moving, faster now, pushing through the growing tension, until finally, a faint light appeared ahead. Natural light. Weak, filtered through the narrow cave entrance. Relief hit all of them at once. They reached the exit just as the sun was beginning to set, the orange glow of evening stretching across the forest outside. For a moment, none of them stepped out. They just stood there, breathing, letting the silence settle. Then Orson spoke. We made it. One by one, they stepped out of the cave. The cold air hit differently out there. Lighter. Real. Behind them, the darkness remained still. Unmoving. Watching. Park authorities later confirmed their entry time, their route, and their return. Nothing unusual was reported officially. Equipment checks showed minor distortions in audio, but nothing conclusive. The footage Lyle recorded contained only darkness and static whenever the eyes were supposed to appear. Everything about it was explainable. At least on paper. But there was one detail that didn't fit. When the team was checked at the exit point, there were 4 of them. Just like when they entered. Same faces. Same voices. Same movements. But Rowan noticed something before they left the site. He didn't say anything at the time. Didn't point it out. Didn't want to. Because as they walked away from the cave, he glanced back one last time. And for a brief second, in the reflection of the fading light behind them, he saw eyes. Not from the cave. From one of them. Watching. Silent. Patient. And perfectly human. Thank you for listening to this story all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the experience. Get some rest, have a good night, and sweet dreams. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Because some things don't stay underground.